welcome to the Old Stoney's podcast. We have the triple view going on today, and it's been a while, Matt. We haven't had a new episode in a few weeks. We've both been out.
You've been out, like hardcore out.
Yeah, been out for about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks now.
Something like that. Yes, sir. Yeah. Good to be back. Yeah. Good to see you.
Yeah, it feels good to be back, and we're in Studio B here at Talkcast PDX. You're at home, and our guest, Kelly O'Connor, is at home as well. I'm getting a little feedback from somewhere. I'm not quite sure who it is. But just want to let you know that we're back in the saddle. We're on TalkCastPDX.com, and we're on Aftermath.fm, and things have been going really great. But we've been having some rehash episodes, right?
Yep.
We're going back in time from this past year. We had Elby from Elby's Edibles on with Hovering, and that was a great repeat show that we had out there the last couple of weeks. Also, we had Ram from Funk Extracts. We had Tyson from So Fresh.
Yep.
We had all kinds of great guests, and so it was good to replay some of those episodes. But this is our last probably new episode before the new year, I would like to say.
Merry Christmas to everybody out there.
Our Christmas episode. I have a green screen behind me of weed fields. What do you guys think of these weed fields back here?
They're looking very tasty, sir. Very tasty.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. But Matt and I are back in the saddle. Matt, how are you? How have things been for you?
I'm doing really good, man. We're gonna get some skiing. I'm getting ready to head up to the mountain here in a couple days for the first time. Always exciting for me, but just been working my ass off and getting ready for the holidays, man.
Yeah, next year.
How are you feeling? You had a little surgery.
Yeah, I had my hip replaced. I had my left hip replaced, and let me tell you, I felt like someone took an aluminum baseball bat and hit me in the thigh. That's what it felt like repeatedly, by the way. It hurt.
My wife had bunion surgery last month, so I completely feel you, and I understand what that's like. I hope your recovery goes really good, dude.
Yeah, it's not every day they saw your femur in half and take part of it out and then put it in.
I never hope I have to go through that. Never, ever, ever, ever.
It was
if my mom can do it, you can do it. If my mom can do it, you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad had to do it, so yeah, completely understand that. You had a little surprise, a little Christmas surprise not too long ago.
Yeah, my son came home from the Navy. He surprised me out of the blue. So
had one of those TikTok videos. You got all weepy. I was like, "Oh,
the little bastard."
He's a good boy.
He surprised me. Yeah, he surprised me, and it's good. And we're getting ready for Christmas, the whole family together for the first time in a while. So it's kind of
nice. Awesome. That's really awesome. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's public yet or not, but he got engaged too as well. So
really, no, I didn't know that.
I'm gonna gain a daughter-in-law at some point here, which is kind of cool.
Congratulations, brother.
They're kind of adventurous people, both of them. That I think they can handle their military life for a couple years, and then
right on
for more adventure. But all right, enough BSing. Excuse me. We have to get into it because we only have 45 minutes left.
Right.
We got to talk about a lot of things. And joining us is Kelly O'Connor from Columbia Labs. You're still with Columbia Labs, correct? Things change so much in this industry. I don't know. I can blink my eyes and things change.
Yep, absolutely. Still with Columbia Laboratories. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. And if people aren't familiar, Columbia Labs helps testing in cannabis, all the different things, plus other things as well. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. We have a pretty unique position in the industry here because Columbia Laboratories has served the Pacific Northwest and beyond for about 40 years for environmental and nutritional testing. So environmental testing has to do with testing soil, air, water, making sure that our stormwater is clean. There's not heavy metals and asbestos and contaminants in our environment. A nutritional analysis, of course, is food safety testing for E. coli, testing for facilities to make sure they're clean. We also test for pesticide contaminants for giant agricultural companies. And Columbia, which was previously known as Pixis Laboratories, was the first certified cannabis lab in Oregon. So we have all these service lines in-house. And it's really been fascinating over the last couple of years as, cannabis has become hemp and marijuana in the United States. We straddle those industries and serve both. And we find that the open legal market for interstate commerce and hemp does have a lot of applications for both environmental and food safety level testing, right? So we've been able to apply a lot of our services on cannabis specific products. And then as we bring that back to the local Oregon community that grows and enjoys processing and making cannabis goodies, it's really cool to kind of bring a lot of those companies into the fold of some of those safety and safety practices for testing as well.
Kelly, we're getting a little bit of some clicking noises out of your microphone. Do you hear that, Matt? I'm not quite sure.
A little bit. Kelly, I did have one question for you. Do you guys also do companies come up and have you test the soil that they're actually growing their cannabis in? Now that you can, do that kind of stuff?
That's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. How's the feedback?
It's still crackling quite a bit. I'm not quite sure why.
Sorry about that. Checking some things out here, but
that's okay.
I was going to say absolutely, and it's a very good idea to do that. If you want to make sure that hemp or cannabis or your botanicals are not going to be riddled with issues such as pesticides and metals and things like that, you have to test all the components that go into that plant. Hemp and cannabis in particular are very, very good at soaking up all the bad things. Not like actually doing that. So we encourage people to test water and your soil for pesticides and heavy metals. And for your air, if you wanted to test your air, you can actually just simply set out some small plates, collect air samples, and we can test it for spores like yeast and molds. So when people are drying cannabis, storing it in different places, that's oftentimes when you get a lot of issues with yeasts and molds and pathogens. So
I never thought that yeast would be a problem. That's interesting. I did read. I've read that the Russian government is using hemp to clean the soil at Chernobyl. So apparently, cannabis is really good at actually absorbing radiation. Problem is, you don't want to smoke that stuff. But yeah, that's what kind of piques me off. You guys do the soil testing. It's probably very, very important for cannabis growers to know that their soil is absolutely the cleanest that they're working with.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
I think we might have to just take a break real quick. Maybe have you disconnect and come back.
BudTenderShirts.com has all the crazy fun and cool shirts you could possibly want. If you want a cannabis-themed shirt, we got them for you. Want one about shrooms? Got that too. Want something that's just plain old stupidly funny? We have it all. BudTenderShirts.com. That's BudTenderShirts.com. Get a shirt and fun can go nuts. BudTenderShirts.com. And now we have socks. Buy it now. BudTenderShirts.com. That's BudTenderShirts.com. Fun can go nuts. Old Stoney's. Shroom Shroomazoom Doom. It's BudTenderShirts.com. Buy a cool shirt today. BudTenderShirts.com. Help a stoner today. BudTenderShirts.com.
All right, so we had a little technical difficulty, so we're just waiting on Kelly O'Connor to join us back here, and Matt and I are just starting to have a little discussion now. What were you talking about? You haven't actually done or used combustibles in a while.
No, I've kind of switched back over to vaping after talking to Tyson.
Oh yeah. I'm going to admit Kelly here. I'm going to go ahead and admit Kelly to our time here. So, Kelly O'Connor, welcome back to the Old Stonies. Oh, she's connecting. Go ahead and finish your story, man.
Yeah, so went down to Oregon's finest, and the fine folks down there hooked me up with the PAX 3.
Okay, yeah.
And got a little So Fresh. I got that new dog house, or I mean dog walker that Tyson popped out. We had a little
Good stuff.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, folks. If you would like to taste what your cannabis smells like, I highly recommend you pick up a vaporizer. I recommend the PAX 3, and give her a whirl. It's
and we're not getting paid for that. PAX.
No,
just so you know, PAX. We like PAX 3. I have one. I use one. I use it all the time, actually, and I as well. I just enjoy it, and I like to use concentrates in there as well. So
yes, the little oven in there works pretty darn well. I've been using some rosin, some rosin I made back in the day when I was working at the hash lab, and it's really nice. You and I used to smoke a gram joint when we sit down to sesh, and now I'm using 2/10 to even like 1.5 tenths of a gram. And that's taken me for about a half an hour to get there, for crying out loud. I'm just flabbergasted. From what I've read, combusting weed flash vaporizes 70% of your cannabinoids. They're gone. You're not going to get them. Vaporizing extracts 70% of your cannabinoids.
I like it.
And the leftovers, your weed's already been decarbed, so you can just put that on a peanut butter sandwich or whatever, just eat it. You're getting
I know I make cookies with it, just so you know. I make cookies with it on a regular basis. So Kelly O'Connor, hello. And you're looking so festive as well still with the hats. I feel out of place. I need
right? She inspired me.
Bah humbug, Justin. Bah humbug.
Oh, that's so much better. Now we can hear you so much better.
Colby, get out. I gotta move my dog here. Colby, move. I almost just ran him over, poor guy. Okay.
Well, we had at the Talkcast PDX studios yesterday. We had the folks from Cooper's Hall Winery and Tap Room, and they came in, and their guests had their dog. First thing they asked, "Are you guys dog friendly?" And I said, "You bet your ass we are." And the dog comes in, little bulldog Rambo, just comes in, takes over the place, and jumps on the couch and lays down. And this is, I like being dog friendly, so. That's good that your dogs are hanging out with you.
Always here.
Well, we had to switch gears due to the technical difficulties, but now we're back. And let's just pick up kind of where we left off. I think we were just getting into talking about what Columbia Labs does. Testing soils, testing products, all the different range of things that you do.
Yeah, and I'll keep it short. We've been doing testing for long. I've been alive. So about 40 years here in various industries. So Columbia Laboratories has a big push for public safety, which is why we're on a lot of the regulatory boards and advisory boards for different associations and things, because we apply food safety testing standards as well as environmental testing applications to cannabis and cannabis products. Largely in the last few years, we've been working with companies that are allowed interstate trade for hemp products, essentially. But molecularly, it's the same as cannabis. So we conduct essentially a lot of cannabis testing. And then here in the local Oregon market, regulated by the OLCC, we've got a lot of great clients here that we work with as well. And we're just excited to be able to bring some of the public safety considerations to the cannabis industry with participation that we can have as well.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Well, at least we could hear you now. And before it was just a little weird. I was like, I didn't really understand that. And then Matt asked, your question was previously, before we took that, just a quick little break there to come right back. You were talking about them going out and testing the soil.
Yeah, well, I was coming up. I alluded to a article I read a couple of years ago, how the Russian government is using cannabis to clean the soil around Chernobyl. Cannabis is really, really good about cleaning soil. The problem with that is that the plant will uptake whatever's in the soil, and you end up smoking it. So it is I would imagine it's very important for farmers to test what they're actually growing their cannabis when I was working for Dope Magazine, I went out to quite a few farms, and I had some growers were very knowledgeable about the dirt they were using, and some of them didn't even mention it. So I was just kind of curious how Colombia tests for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great question. You know, as we know, hemp I'll just say cannabis. It'll cover the whole slew. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I go like hemp and cannabis and marijuana. It's all cannabis. You know, it's used as a bioremediator for soil, so it'll uptake a lot of those contaminants, including metals and minerals that are toxic towards you. And so that's part of it. You know, you can also get some bad stuff through water. So even the water that they're using, not just the soil, right? And the things that come oftentimes with water are going to be like bacteria, pathogens, and things like that. So testing water for E. coli and listeria is pretty important. Yeah, and then, you know, because I mean, it's you want healthy plants, you know, garbage in is garbage out. So making sure that all the input materials for growing are going to be as clean as possible is really important. You know, and then the pesticides, that consideration could be if it's outdoor, like a drift from your neighbors. So always good to check that environment as well. And then certainly from nutrients that people are using to help propagate as well. So kind of everything that could be put into the process really should be tested at least once, just to know if you know, what you're working with there. And then, you know, and then beyond that, you know, cannabis is regulated in Oregon, which is nice. You know, we don't have a prolific black market where you don't know what you're getting. Everything that's been put on the shelves in the OLCC market has been tested for pesticides and residual solvents. But that testing is actually going to change next year.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I thought there was some changes that were coming that some people weren't so happy about. Some people didn't really care. It's coming down the pipe.
About this.
Yeah, what's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, well, this is a really great time to bring it up. Actually, 2 days ago on Monday, the OLCC commissioners had an open hearing to hear testimony from industry stakeholders on the hemp and cannabis sides of things to address the new regulations that are due to come in place starting in about 9 days, and then being put into effect anywhere as early as June 2022, possibly with a year longer extension. During the hearing on Monday, there was an overwhelming amount of voices that were in staunch opposition of the proposed regulations, claiming that the additional oversight into the hemp industry can likely be crippling and cause a lot of businesses that grow hemp and make hemp products to leave the state of Oregon. And then cannabis wise, which is more of what we're here about in general for the marijuana market, there is going to be a increased cost for a lot of the people producing and processing and making products. And the hardest part about that is that they can't pass that cost on to the consumers. You're not going to see like all of a sudden your grams are $10 or $15. Like, so these cannabis companies, if they're small mom and pops and things like that, unfortunately, with the way that some of the regulations are coming forth for next year, it's going to make it really, really hard for the smaller companies to survive in this marketplace here in Oregon.
Are any of these regulations aimed at controlling the explosion of illegal farms that have been going on in Oregon? Because I know I've been reading these articles about how some of these people are coming in claiming to be growing hemp, and then they're actually growing real cannabis, but it's not going into the OLCC regulated market. It's kind of floating off into space here.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a really good point. I'm going to try to keep it really general. There's a lot going on in Oregon right now.
And a lot of it's up in the air too. We're kind of looking into a crystal ball now.
But what I'd say is that your topic was the kernel that, you know, it was the spark that lit the wildfire flames. Like the illegal farming in Southern Oregon is what allowed for last year us to push forward an emergency bill, which gave the OLCC regulatory control over the hemp industry to help to eradicate the illegal farming that was happening in the Southern Oregon counties. And so because the OLCC now has that authority, they're really changing it up in a lot of ways, and it's causing some disruption as well. But that really is what kick-started the shift of power in the people in the different agencies that regulate cannabis here in Oregon. It's a really big deal.
They have to know that more regulations, more fees. I mean, California is saying that their legal industry is on the verge of collapse, and they're asking for emergency tax suspensions and fee suspensions. And now we're starting to add more of these fees and taxes onto smaller farms. I can't help but think that we're going to kind of go down the road to California. I hope not. Caution friends, don't buy anything that hasn't been tested. You guys don't know. We didn't know back in the 90s. Justin and I had no idea what we put into our lungs.
Sure.
No idea what they were putting into the flour. We were just happy to get it. Yeah. And I fear that we're kind of going back to that time if we start pushing these mom and pops out, and I've only got the Walmart of weed to buy from. You know, I want to buy my shit from Walmart. I want to buy it from So Fresh Farms and from Doghouse, and you know.
I was just reading, Matt. I was just reading that California's cannabis system is the only system that starts with a tax at the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody gets taxed. It's just tax.
Everybody.
Tax.
Yeah, boom, 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 right down the line.
So in relationship to the taxes, some things that are coming up in this next legislative session is a little heavy, right? But are pretty important to pay attention to, because they're proposing a huge tax increase again on the cannabis community, right? The cannabis industry would be the one footing the bill. So that's why it is edging more towards the California model, because they're looking at taxing super heavy. And again, we cannot pass that overhead onto the consumers. That's not the way that sales work and the market works. The only thing that does is to, again, make bigger companies bigger and smaller companies not able to compete. So, you know, that's something to pay attention to in this legislative session. Are we going to increase cannabis taxes to the consumers, to, you know, us here? You know, it doesn't really have an effect on our pocketbook. So I'm afraid that consumers don't really know the consequences of increased taxes on cannabis companies, because it doesn't directly affect me going into, you know, Maritime Cafe, right, and buying what I like to buy. But what it will affect is the diversity of products on the market, and probably the quality of products on the market as well. So that's one thing really to pay attention to in the legislative session coming up, is the proposed tax bills for cannabis. The other one is like, oh man, I'm scared to say this out loud, but like, if the regulations go forward as they are proposed, there's going to be a lot of lawsuits coming here, and there will be Oregon companies.
It'll be so litigious. It'll be ridiculous. There's a lot of money out there, a lot of foreign investment money as well. I think we'd be crazy to do something, but I think this problem also stems at the national level, because the current administration made a lot of promises and a lot of things, but doesn't care. As far as I'm concerned right now, this current administration is no better than the previous. They just know how to hide things like racism and inequities a little bit easier for some reason. But I see, you know, banking and pushing this ahead. There's just no urgency in the current administration, which really bothers me. Because a lot of people were hoping that, you know, that would have been a step towards progress, but it's only done anything but stagnate things and just set things off into a wrong direction that they don't need to go.
It's really important to tune in, you know, like now is a really great time. I think if there's one thing we've learned in the last 5 years of cannabis and regulation, is that a lot of people that don't know anything about cannabis are regulating it. So like, if you're in it, if you're involved, like, pull your head out of the sand or your busy life or whatever, and take a peek, because it's a young industry. We have so much potential to create so much good right now through framing these regulations, including equity, including sustainability, including these initiatives that have been supported by our governor, by the federal legislation as well. And cannabis is the gateway drug for the earth and for humans to have a more beneficial and harmonious life. And so there's a lot of opportunity, and there's good people doing good things. I just signed up to be on the Center for Cannabis Federal Regulation. So a lobbyist and lawyer group that's collecting data from all different types of countries and things like that to present to the FDA to help create a path forward for regulating cannabinoids. So there's good people doing good things, but it takes a lot more than that to make it become a reality, because there's a lot at stake, and there's a lot of change that's happening right at this point in time. I was going to say on a federal level, they did just appoint a new FDA commissioner. His name is Robert Califf.
I saw that. Yeah.
And so in what you're saying, Justin, about them not following through on promises in some ways, is like a lot of us were looking at his opening statements and waiting for the word cannabis or CBD or something.
Just give me something.
Not one mention at all. So that what they didn't say is pretty indicative.
Yeah.
Is Columbia Labs getting in this fight as well, corporate wise? I know.
Well, so we're not. So we have a parent company that's based out of Bremen, Germany. We're actually one of 70 laboratories globally within our network. So Tentamus, no, is not getting behind the federal legalization fights, but I represent Columbia Laboratories in our hemp and cannabis ventures and interactions, and so. Yeah, we are supporting the cannabis federal legalization. We're also working with so many groups: the American Western Hemp Professionals, the American Herbal Products Association, the Oregon Cannabis Association, the Oregon Cannabis Retailers Association, the Oregon Industrial Hemp Farmers Association, and the National Industrial Hemp Council. We just went to a lobbying meeting in November. That group is much more about a different topic, which is about agricultural farming for hemp, right? Talking fiber, textiles, oils, animal feed, not cannabinoid production. So there's just so many things happening all at the same time. But yeah, it is an important time to get involved and have some influence over the shape of that. But yeah, so your answer, Matt, is like no, but because I work for Columbia Laboratories, we're like trying to do everything.
Well, I would even say not yet. I know Germany has a pretty robust medical system right now. And in fact, I even know that Canada ships their weed out to them, which what a missed opportunity for our country, but whatever.
Man, we're missing out.
Conversation. But I think with time, we're starting to see, at least in the United States, some of these larger companies are starting to kind of not maybe accept cannabis, but maybe turn a little bit more of a blind eye towards it, unless they're actually like driving a forklift or a semi truck, federally regulated, no smoking weed laws. Yeah. But I know for their regular rank and file employees, things are starting to change.
I think with stuff like commercial driver's licenses and things like that, you should be able to still use cannabis, and it's up to them to figure out, of course, you don't smoke on the job. I mean, those are dangerous jobs. But when you get off work, you should be able to go home and have a joint.
Yeah, I was explaining to a coworker of mine, cannabis is a lot like Advil. You can get it over the counter. Yeah. Like Advil, and you can get a prescription for Advil. Yeah. And I just don't see why a company would fire you for taking an Advil when you're in pain. When I was climbing trees for PGE, I didn't want to take 800 milligrams a day and have my liver fall out of wherever orifice it would be doing it from. But I found out that a little bit of weed would let me get some sleep and recover a little bit and let me climb trees the next morning around high voltage power lines. Absolutely. Was not an unsafe thing. Obviously, I mean, I had a very, very dangerous job.
You're not roasting bowls before you go climb a tree. It's not like you're sitting there toking up doobie in your city or
smoking out with a raccoon truck 60 feet up in the air.
Yeah, before you go. Hey, that's just stupid and idiotic to think that anybody would do that. But it's not stupid or idiotic to think that, geez, Matt, after a long day of cutting trees for 10 hours, you went home and had a joint sitting in front of the fire.
Yeah. Basically,
big fucking deal, that's it gets me so hard.
When I was younger, I worked for an insurance company, and I overheard a conversation they were having about UAs, and they're thinking their thinking is basically, if you test positive for cannabis, even if it was in the last 30 days, they assume you were smoking out in the bathroom. That was their words exactly. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
It's like COVID.
they all
It's like
looked at me.
it just lingers.
Yeah.
My previous employer that I had, I went back into the broadcast business. They thought just because I was in the weed business for a few years that I was smoking weed when I'd go to work. And I'm like, dude, I wouldn't be able to sit here for this long and, bang out words on a piece of paper and read them. If I was high, I got to concentrate and focus, that's for creative session, that's for like off work. I got to come up with some ideas bullshit. That's not, come to work and be a professional. I mean, but to assume that, that was going on really pisses me off, that people think that. It's just like, you know what? There are responsible adults in this world that smoke or use cannabis in other ways. And it just drives me crazy. So,
I know.
Thank you for letting me vent that and get that off my chest. Kelly, I wanted to talk a little bit about sustainability and the role that labs could play in that aspect of things. I'm not quite sure, where that role is as far as maybe, the products that are being made, that are they compostable or not? I get that question a lot. Someone handed me a joint tube that said, hey, somebody said this could go in the landfill. And I looked at it, I'm like, holy cow. And I'm like, knocking on the thing, man, this thing's hard as a rock. I don't know how that it's compostable.
Compostable?
Hey, I did it.
Whatever. Make it for our own freaking words.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to what you just said, there's so much waste in the cannabis industry.
Ugh.
So we'll just start there. And I believe that hemp is going to save the planet.
I agree.
I'm super stoked about the opportunities there. I actually just had a call yesterday with a lady who's like, I'm an investor and I've just been down this rabbit hole of like hemp and cannabinoids and all this stuff. I'm like, what do you think where should I go? What's the market trends? We're talking about it. Really nice lady. And I'm like, what this country and the world needs, I was like, I'll tell you how to make money fast. No problem, right? That's easy, right?
Like everybody on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly, right? No problem. And I said, but if you really want to do something that makes an impact, you could work towards the supply chain of processing hemp fibers in the United States. So I'll bring that back to sustainability because of this. Going into packaging, right? What do we have as our packaging options? We don't have a lot of compostable, biodegradable, plant-based packaging options out there, but hemp does, when processed effectively, provide incredibly powerful hempcrete, hemp biofuels. It can provide plastics, bioplastics, but they have to be processed in a certain way and they have to be made in a certain way. And nobody in the United States right now is willing to have the balls to be the first to do it here because they know that China's going to come over 2 weeks later and do it, for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, cheaper and faster.
Yeah. So that's a big thing right now. The commodities are pitted up against, cotton and things like that have government subsidies. Hemp doesn't have any government subsidies, right? So, but it is effectively like much less of a water consumer. It sequesters carbon emissions as well when you're growing hemp on large agricultural scales. And then the products made from that can essentially be products that can go back into the earth. But what's missing out of that right now is actually large scale manufacturing and processing of hemp fibers in the United States. I see us being a huge exporter, right? We could be a fantastic exporter of hemp in the world. And is specifically for products like that. I think cannabinoids are awesome. The whole CBD trend is fantastic. But once everybody smokes actual weed, it's the power of hemp is in the plant to provide for the planet. But what's missing there is that step where they're able to process this very thick fibrous material into a malleable and a diverse product that they can use in different aspects. But it is developing mainly in Canada right now. They're working really hard on hempcrete. And there
The
have been
hempcrete's huge. That's the one I've been following.
I want to live in a hemp creek house. I was going to say we could use this plant to help solve our homeless problem, for crying out loud.
it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's a million uses, but you know, because everybody is looking at like, how do I make money right now quick, they're not looking at the long game of like where the world is heading in. So if anybody has a nice long vision of saving the planet, I can tell you how to do it.
Hemp creek
like
for
that.
the homeless. That's what I want to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Homeless hempcrete homes.
There's some cool. I'll do a plug.
House
I'll
the
plug some
houseless.
people. Yeah, I'll plug some people. I would plug if you know people out there listening, I would plug Titan Bioplastics.
Oh yeah.
Yep, they're a Seattle-based company, and they have the technology to convert. And then I would also plug this nice lady out of California, Erica. She owns a company called Tiny E-Paper, all made out of hemp, and her packaging goes back to the cannabis industry. So she sells cannabis packaging that's made out of hemp paper, hemp plastics, hemp everything. And that is biodegradable and compostable as well. So those are two kind of plugs if people are looking towards incorporating more sustainability in their immediate packaging services, and then also looking at like a long-term pathway for cannabis and sustainable practices.
I'm with you, Kelly, though. I think hemp could save the planet as far as reversing the effects of man. It's everybody talks about saving the planet, but we look at ourselves usually first. The United States looks at ourselves. What can we do? But there are some major offenders that are around the world that it's going to be hard to rein them in. China, certain parts of Brazil, even in Africa, there's huge problems in Africa with people dumping waste and all kinds of stuff. It sounds funny, but we almost have to patrol the world on this kind of thing to reverse all these things. Do
we though, or do we just need to lead? Do we need to control everyone, or do we just need to lead? Like, do we just need to
lead? Example.
I know. That's what I mean. That we look to ourselves first, but the problem is so big in other parts of the world that it almost seems insurmountable against those types of governments that are, we don't care what you say, we're going to do whatever the hell we want, type of situation. Are we willing to go to war over the environment?
Right. And a lot of people, a lot of this hemp cannabis prohibition came about because they did follow the United States lead. Talking to Kitty from Thailand, they have a 10,000-year history with cannabis and completely abandoned it because the United States was giving them a lot of money and said, hey, if you want to keep this tap flowing, you better make weed illegal. Mm-hmm. And we pushed that influence all over the world. We could definitely reverse that trend.
Yeah,
now
I think you're right.
Incentivize it, right? Incentivize as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Absolutely.
You guys want this aid from the United States? Start investing in hemp research and cannabis and that kind of stuff. Let's get
think of the wine trade. Think of the wine trade, what goes on between European countries and this country, and then our wines going to those countries. People, I could see the same thing going with cannabis.
That's where lobbying.
I could see being on a trip to like Bonn, Germany, and I stop into a cannabis store. And, oh, hey, there's my favorite brand from America. Holy crap! They have cones here. Holy shit, that is so cool. You pick up, that kind of thing. That excites me. World commerce type of situations.
That's a quick question. Have you had a chance to work with any of the cannabis lobbyists in the state of Oregon?
Yeah, totally.
Right on.
Yeah, they're great people. They want help.
I haven't had a chance to meet any of them or even talk to any of these associations yet. So that's interesting.
The cool thing right now is that like there's more collaboration between industry stakeholders and local regulators than there ever has been before. I've been like on a dozen work groups, right, where it's like people that are competing for business are putting their heads together to create a good pathway for their products, right? So that's really cool, and they're listening. Like there's voices that are being listened to, but it's a very, very complicated issue. So those lobbyists are doing fantastic work on making complicated issues more digestible for our legislatures to understand. Because I mean, they can't. Some people like that are making the legislation like they don't never even smell cannabis before. So it's really important to have that on the docket, you know. And so you know, there's and yeah, so there are really great groups to get involved with. I'm on the board for Oregon Industrial Hemp Farmers Association. If anybody's involved in hemp, get on that program. And awesome. Then, you know, Oregon Cannabis Association as well as a really collaborative group. So those are a couple good ones.
Yeah,
I know. I've been spending my Tuesdays with the Cannabis Policy Oversight Team, the CPOT team here in Portland.
Oh, cool.
Run by Travis Maurer, and it's just a nice. We've been focusing on education and cool. Safety awareness, and you know, tools for you know, bud tenders, if you will, and other cannabis workers to be able to access and have access to those types of things, to you know about safety and rules and things like that all the time, you know, at their fingertips.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That's always important. I mean,
and we've been doing developing a survey we're going to send out to everybody. So that's always fun. That's always fun.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
What kind of potato chips do you like to eat after you smoke weed? No, I'm just.
I was like, really?
No, I'm kidding. What were you going to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, nothing. I was just saying, way to get involved, you know, like way to take a step outside your comfort zone and challenge yourself in a place that, you know, it's you're learning and contributing to. That's really what we need. So yeah, it's really important. But I also, the type of potato chips I would say would probably just be like straight old fashioned, like the Tim's, you know, Tim's potato chips.
Oh, Tim's Cascade chips.
Oh. So good.
Peanut oil, man. You can't go wrong when you cook.
That's it. Yeah, it's peanut oil.
Man, that's some good stuff right there. The Munchables.
Yeah. Are you guys, I was going to ask you guys, what's any cool strains or anything that you've come across lately? I found a couple good ones.
What do you got, Matt?
We're all flower.
Well, like I said, I've been smoking on that So Fresh, that new round of Dog Walker that just came out. We got picked them up at Oregon's Finest. It's just blowing my mind away.
I've been testing.
Kelly, I heard that you mentioned the Maritime Cafe. I wrote those guys up for Dope Magazine. What a great dispensary.
They're so great. They're right down the street from my house. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Do they still have the full coffee bar in there and everything?
Yeah, smoothies. Nice. I mean, the whole, I don't know if I don't want to out them on the internet or something, but like, go to Maritime Cafe. That place is awesome.
Yeah, that place is dope, man.
Yeah, they're pretty cool folks.
Yeah, they are cool folks. I had some Chem Skunk OG that was really good from Dow Gardens. You guys ever get anything from?
I haven't had any Dow Gardens yet. I'll have to go check them out.
I've seen them. I haven't had any of their products. I just got some Fatso.
So the Dow Gardens, I actually got to visit their facility down in Eugene recently, and their cultivation practices are really, really cool. They have live soil, and it's a completely regenerative system, and they use beneficial yeast to like culture the soil, and it's really cool. And then, so they grow some fireweed. They have a bunch of different strains. They're always on the pheno hunt, you know, and so they've got quite a few in there. And then they cure it for extra long. They do a slow 3-week drying process for their cannabis stuff.
I like the slow process though.
It's a game changer in terms of concentration and terpene preservation. And you reduce the water content in anything, and you're going to increase all the other content, right? So if you dry it out more, you get more powerful expressions of whatever cannabinoid terpenes. And so that was great. I really enjoyed their Chem Skunk OG. I like the stinky, cheesy, nasty stuff. So I was like, the danker, the better.
I like that stinky weed.
Yeah, so that was really cool company, small guy, kind of newer on the scene and stuff. And I think they're going to start processing and doing some infused joints here pretty soon as well.
Oh, that's cool. We'll have to get them on the show.
Oh, they're so good. They're so
I,
good.
I scooted over to the shop yesterday. I got Fatso. That's what I have. I picked up some Fatso from the Heights company this round.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty good. Had a really high test number, but the weed itself just looks so amazingly great. That light green, and it just had that nice earthy overtone with a little bit of funk on the back end, and it's one of those really mellow indicas. I mean, I could smoke that stuff and work, you know, like on my computer. I could write a, you know, hey, I want to write a little on my screenplay, man. I'm gonna,
You know, that's really nice to hear because,
but
like,
you can function, you know, you can think
function.
clearly.
Yeah, I missed the strain. I don't know if you guys ever see it. Let me know if you find it somewhere. But Dutch Treat, do you ever see that anywhere anymore?
I haven't seen that cultivar in a while, but it is one of my all-time favorites.
Dude, and it's because it's like it's a low hitter.
You can find some. Go check out Lucky Lion dispensaries. They have their version of Dutch Treat. I can't remember what they call it. They call it something different, but it's basically Dutch Treat. The bartenders will definitely be able to tell you.
I love a good Dutch treat, though. You know who had a good Dutch treat? Who was that?
Bodie had a pretty decent one.
Bodie had a great Dutch treat.
Bodie's got great.
Taste of Cascadia. Taste of Cascadia.
Oh yeah. They had a great Dutch treat.
God, they had one of the best Dutch treats I've ever smoked.
Really, Cascadia? Okay.
Taste of Cascadia.
Taste of Cascadia.
Isn't that it? Yeah, I believe that's
We're all comparing notes.
I'm trying to remember back in the day. I'm not even sure if they still operate. I think they're medical. I'm not sure. Wow, good stuff. Let's bring up the Dutch treat there, Kelly.
Well, you're talking about those verdant greens and those low, you know, those kind of playful, low stuff. I love that. You know,
yeah, me too. I always love that earthy thing. The one that I think I liked from Green Bodie, Matt, you mentioned Green Bodie, and I hope I'm not going off the rails too much, but was Tora Bora. Remember that?
I remember that.
It's so high in beta carotene, it smells like pepper. I mean, you're like,
that.
Man, I'm gonna sprinkle that on my steak and then eat that. But it was, when you smoked it, it was like so soothing. It was one of those cannabis cultivars that makes you feel like something good is actually happening to your body as you smoke it.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I learned tips from those guys too. You know, you don't hold in your hits. You know, you learn tips. You know, it's like in and out. Just like all you need to do is inhale and then exhale.
Yep, just breathe.
You don't need to hold it in like when you're like, you know, a young stupid ass college kid thinking that all you're doing is depriving your oxygen from your brain.
Right? That's what you were getting high off. It was that lack of oxygen.
Good times.
Well,
good times.
Brother, my time has come up. I got to get ready for work.
All right. Well, Matt is going to exit us, and then I'll probably do the same. We want to thank you, Kelly, for coming on our holiday program. I'm in Studio B today, so I'm not sure where to look all day long here. I've been looking all over the place. But we thank you for, taking the time out and joining us and hanging out with us. And hopefully we'll get you to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I know that it's a little regulation heavy and stuff, but I do, just as a part and shot, want to reiterate that it is a very, very critical time for the cannabis industries in Oregon to engage, or at least understand what's going on, because there is a slew of changes coming down the pipelines. Yep. And I just encourage everybody to get ahead of that as much as possible. And if you ever need any resources in regards, I'm happy to help as well.
Well, we'll get you on again in January, and we'll talk about, those changes that are coming. So.
Sounds like a plan. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, guys. Take care.
Merry Christmas. Take care. Hope you get all the weeds of your dreams.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Take care. And that's going to do it for the Old Stoney's podcast for our little holiday edition. We'll be back after the new year with more episodes, new episodes right here on Talkcast PDX and on aftermath.fm. And I got to say, until next time, for Matt Cristione, I'm Justin McDonald. Keep on smoking.